Okay, so you want to pay Malcolm X's family off, you want to pay his daughters off, but where's the justice?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
One.
What's up, everybody out there on YouTube? In case you've been living under the rock, my name is Jesse. This is No Names Media, and I'm here to bring you a little bit of information that I came across. And so recently, it's been a lawsuit has been filed by Benjamin Crump. If you're not familiar with Benjamin Crump, he's a pretty big attorney out here when it comes to civil rights lawsuits and the murder and harm being done to black people, mostly done by police officers. So in this article, in this news presentation I'm going to show you is that Benjamin Crump and the daughters of Malcolm X are putting together a lawsuit for $100 million against the NYPD, government agents such as the CIA, the FBI, and what they're trying to do, they're trying to get that get the $100 million because not too long ago, I think maybe in 2022, the men who were accused of killing Malcolm X were free from jail and paid a few $1 million for wrongful conviction. So what happened then, a void was left, an unanswered question was, well, if these men aren't responsible, who is? And so with the recently released classified documents on the murder of Malcolm X, it's obvious and it's coming to light that it was the United States government that had a hand in the murder of Malcolm X. And so what the family is asking for is obviously financial compensation. And in my opinion, that's not enough. That's not enough. We need to see convictions. I'm pretty sure that the men who killed Malcolm X, just like the men they falsely accused of killing Malcolm X, are alive. The people who orchestrated it and the government agencies are alive, and we need charges filed. We need actual justice. We don't need them to give us money to pacify us and to sit us over to the side, because they don't do that to any other group. If there's another group out there whose people was done, who was assassinated, who were harmed in any other way, even if it's in the past, they give them justice. They give them financial compensation, and they bring people to trial, and they arrest them. So here's what I'm going to show you is a quick video by Benjamin Crump. He's speaking on the issue, and then we're going to take it from there.
The rhetorical question is this: if the government compensated the two gentlemen that were wrongfully convicted for the assassination of Malcolm X with tens of millions of dollars, then what is to be the compensation for the daughters who suffered the most from the assassination of Malcolm X? We intend to have vigorous litigation of this matter, to have discovery, to be able to take depositions of the individuals who are still alive 58 years later, to make sure that some measure of justice can be given to Malcolm X's daughters, who in this very room were present with their mother when he was shot at 21 times 17 bullets hitting him. If anybody deserves justice after these decades, it is these women.
Yeah, so that's Benjamin Crump. That's the attorney bringing the lawsuit to the federal government. One thing I want to say is that we need to stop conflating getting financial payouts as justice, because it's the furthest thing from justice. Justice is punishment for the crimes committed, not payment to those who were afflicted by the crime. That's not justice. $100 million does not pay for the trauma that that family witnessed on that day of seeing their father killed in front of them. $100 million doesn't pay for that. $100 million doesn't pay for the last 40 years of Betty's life, where she had to live without her husband, and the only memory she had of him, her only final memory she had of him was him being shot down on stage, representing and speaking out for his people. $100 million doesn't pay for that. $100 million doesn't pay for all the years that Malcolm's daughters had to go through without a father figure in their life, to walk them down the aisles, to see them graduate, to see his grandkids. $100 million doesn't pay for that. And so I don't want this $100 million to just simply stop there and we get more information about what happened, and we may even find out exactly who specifically is responsible for it, and then that's it. These people get to walk free. We want trials, we want prosecutions, and we want prison sentences on top of that $100 million. There were millions of people across the planet who was affected by the murder of that man. It was a thriving, desperate black community in this nation who needed Malcolm X to not only aspire to be like, to look up to, but to gain knowledge and information from. There were black men across this nation who looked up to Malcolm X to see what example of a man should be. The importance of standing up for your community and your family. And that was taken away. Not to mention the millions of people overseas who were devastated by the unnecessary loss of Malcolm X. Malcolm X was simply killed not because he was a danger to the United States security apparatus. Malcolm X was killed because he was of great interest and benefit to the black community. The white community, the racist white community has never introduced anything in the black community that will benefit us. And if it didn't come from them, then it's a national security threat. There's absolutely no reason that this family should stop at $100 million. They need to be seeking prosecution of the people responsible for this. The utter devastation and the heartache that the people of the black people of this country felt on that day, and every day in the past few decades since that man has been gone, has still been felt. It's more, at this point, more than 50 years later, it's beyond the point of simply wanting simple trials and prosecution of the people responsible. Getting those trials and getting those prosecutions for the people responsible has a much more impactful, and it sends a message from the United States government that the wrong that they done to us is at least about to start to be mended. The history of them killing our leaders, killing our civil rights icons, and just destroying and decimating our community, all that has to be paid for, all that has to be compensated, all that has to be rectified, all that has to be recognized and apologized for. So if they give you $1 million, that's fine, but that doesn't mean that the trauma and the crime that they're still committing to this day will stop. These crimes need to stop, and the one way that these crimes can at least begin to be stopped and these wounds can be mended is simply by putting these men in jail, releasing all credible and necessary documents about who's responsible, and then releasing it to the public. Financially compensating that family for the decades that they had to struggle and try to get by without the head of their household, without the father, to give them the protection financially and physically that he was prepared and born to do. The loss of that man over 50 years later is absolutely devastating. And so one thing that happens a lot when it comes to when America wants to create I mean, when America wants to fix the wrongs it does to black people, it does a lot of symbolism. A huge major symbolism that took place was with of George Floyd. They compensated financially the family a couple $1 million, and then when we were black people, we were asking for specific things to happen and to change. We were asking for changes in the laws. We were asking for changes in the way that police are punished. We was asking for them to get rid of qualified immunity that will protect police from lawsuits of their personal property, because it's less likely that a police officer is going to violate your civil rights and your human rights when they know they can get a lawsuit and get their own bank accounts taken. Defund the police isn't the government stopping giving money to the police department. Defunding the police is these police officers constantly getting millions and millions of dollars in lawsuits put up against them, and that's taking money from the police department. That's what's defunding the police. But you don't hear anybody complain about that. You don't hear these union representatives complain about the millions of dollars leaving these coffers of these police departments when these police violate the rights of black people. And so what America does, they want to give pacifying messages to the black community to say, see, we're sorry, we're going to make it better. Here's a statue, here's a holiday, here's a new color that we just put in the dictionary. It means black is beautiful, turquoise, green, red, and blue #1. That's not justice. One thing they wanted to do is that another thing we wanted to do is have the woman responsible for the murder of Emmett Till brought to justice. That woman, Carol Brand, is still alive. Back when the murder of Emmett Till happened, there was a warrant out for her arrest. But since from that point to now, there's not been a sheriff or defense or state's attorney who brought that warrant into effect and who arrested her. So instead of giving us that woman, as we asked for her to face charges for the crime she committed and her contribution to the murder of that young boy, Emmett Till. The White House wants to give us film screenings of the movie Emmett Till, symbolic gestures. They want to say, we'll show the movie so that white people can become more sensitive to the problems that black people have faced in this nation. We want to appeal to the moral compass of people who have no morality to begin with. It's all a shit show. It's absolutely nothing. It's pretending to do the most when you're absolutely doing nothing. If the people who you've aggrieved, the people who you've harmed, the people who was the descendants of those you murdered say, we want justice and this is the justice we want. We want the person responsible for this crime brought to justice and arrested and sent to trial and fairly judged and obviously prosecuted. That's the justice we want. But when your government says we're not going to give you the justice that everyone else would be afforded, we're not going to openly and blatantly arrest someone who committed a crime, regardless if it's 50 years ago, but the statute of limitation for murder doesn't expire, we're not going to give you that. You have a United States government who's refusing to follow the law that they've written themselves. A grand jury declined to indict Carolyn Bryan Dunham, the white woman whose accusations sent Emmett Till off to be lynched. It was in Mississippi. Now, the point of me going through this was, who's the district attorney of Mississippi? Mississippi State's attorney. It's a black person. So when they say we're going to hire a black person for this office, the first black person ever in this office, it means absolutely nothing if that black person isn't following the laws that are on the books, but also if that black person isn't looking after the best interest of their own racial group. And I'm not saying, not follow the law and do special privileges for black people, but when black people are the main race in this country who seems to get justice, we should be a priority, especially if you come from our stock. All right, so this is Lynn Fitch. This is the Mississippi Attorney General. She is back in 2022, it was her office that refused to bring charges up against Carolyn Bryant for the murder of Emmett Till and her contribution to his murder, and her inciting a riot, her inciting violence, her inciting anything, her committing perjury, anything. She's the woman who's responsible for not letting that happen. If you look at her, she probably sees Carolyn Bryant as her grandmother. So that's pretty obvious that charges won't be brought up against her. There was a black man who was in, he had some role or some position, I forget, in that state that did have the power to facilitate charges against Carolyn Bryant. I forget his name, but he had the capability, if he so chose to bring charges against Carolyn Bryant, and he refused. And so I guess after more pressure, they had to send it all the way up to the state's attorney general, and she also refused, saying that there was no evidence warranting the arrest of Carolyn Bryant. And that's pretty funny when this young man's murder, those responsible for it, and the situation what happened is all in the history books. If you don't have any, just look at the history books. They even got movies and documentaries about it, but there's no evidence that this woman committed a crime. She openly admitted that she lied. So when we want justice as black people, we don't get justice. We get payoffs. We get hush money. We wish go away money. Go away and let us finish doing what we're doing to you. You're not worthy of justice. And so there are some people who believe that she's too old. The situation is so long ago. Why? What good is it going to do now? Well, I guess no one wanted to tell that to the Jews when they arrested this how old is she? 97-year-old fucking woman who was a secretary at a Nazi concentration camp. They sure found her and arrested her ass. And her shit happened before Emmett Till's murder. So don't tell me that there's a statue of, and she definitely didn't kill anyone. She signed some paperwork, put some stamps on some information, did some foul shit. You know, regardless of that, she was the participant. She was the cog in the wheel for an evil machine. I get it. But her hands don't have as much blood, direct blood. Her hands don't have as much direct blood as Carolyn Bryant's did, and we can't get justice for that. But shouts out to the Jewish community. Whatever they do to get justice and whatever they did to bring this woman to trial and to get the judge to sign off on it, and attorney generals and the state's attorney and anybody else they needed to get approval for them to find that woman and arrest her ass. Shout outs to them. They did it. We need to take notes. But don't sit up here and tell me that black people requests for justice from Carolyn Bryant is uncalled for, unnecessary, and it can't happen. Because it seems like every year the Jewish community find another 87, 97, 100-year-old person who has some sort of job cleaning toilets in the Nazi concentration camp, and they bring their ass to trial. And they get them time too. This 97-year-old lady, if she was 93, they probably would gave her ass 7 more years, but she's 97. She had a 2-year suspended sentence. She's currently fighting to get that overturned, which I fucking highly doubt that'll happen. But yeah. And so when we, as black people, when we ask for justice, when they kill our sons and our daughters in the street, and then the only thing they want to give us is hush money, that has a very detrimental society, and it doesn't produce a punishment mechanism for those responsible. It doesn't incentivize anyone to stop, because no one feels the pressure. No one feels, I'm not going to feel any meaningful way Malcolm X's family getting $100 million. $100 million out of the taxpayers of America is less than a penny out of my paycheck. I'm not going to feel that. But what I will feel is jail time for those who are responsible. What I will feel is the attempt by the United States government hoping and looking to make some amends for the wrongs that they've done to us. What I will feel is the attempt by the United States government hoping and looking to make some amends for the wrongs that they've done to us. What I will feel is the pride and the sense of justice that the people who look like me around this nation will begin to feel, the hope and the sheer joy that we would at least feel one small pinch of joy and feeling of justice has been served. That's what I would feel. Now, the daughter of Malcolm X, at that same press conference that I showed you earlier with Attorney Benjamin Crump, she got up to the podium. She had some things to say. I want to share that with you all before I proceed.
For years, our family has fought for the truth to come to light concerning his murder, and we'd like our father to receive the justice that he deserves. The truth about the circumstances leading to the death of our father is important, not only to his family, but to many followers, many admirers, many who look to him for guidance, for love. And it is our hope that litigation of this case will finally provide some unanswered questions. We want justice served for our father.
And Lord willing, we'll get justice for Malcolm. When she was saying that, I was just hoping that her understanding and belief that $100 million would compensate for justice for all that she's lost, which I highly doubt. The emotional trauma that she still has endured all these decades later, and I'm certain she still has PTSD if she hasn't been to therapy for that, it still exists. I wish her all the best. I wish her family the best. I hope they win their lawsuit. And granted, Benjamin Crump is not a criminal attorney. He's more of a settlement attorney. I understand that, and that's fine. But the point I'm trying to prove here is that justice doesn't come in many different forms. Justice only comes in one form: punishing those who have harmed or aggrieved others, and therefore by breaking the law. When someone breaks the law, they get punished for it. When someone breaks the law and they don't get punished for it, then either it's that government that's not legitimate because they don't uphold the laws that they wrote, or the crime that they committed was not a crime in the first place. Now, I'm certain murder is a crime, but maybe in America it just depends on who you murder that determines whether you need to go to jail for it or not. I thank you all for your patience. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining me. This is Jesse with No Names Media, and I'm out.